Whoa. Crypto is absolutely buzzing right now. I mean, seriously, it feels like every time you blink, there's some crazy new price action, a new headline, just nonstop action.
Yeah, it is pretty wild out there.
It really is. So if you're feeling a little lost trying to keep up with it all, you are definitely in the right place. This is the deep dive, and we help you cut through all the noise and figure out what actually matters.
Exactly. We've gathered a whole mountain of intel for this deep dive. We're talking Thursday, March 20th, 2025. That's the snapshot we're looking at today.
That's right, up to the minute. YouTube videos, breaking news, all the good stuff. We've sifted through it all to bring you the really essential insights, the stuff that'll actually help you understand what's going on.
Absolutely.
So, where should we kick things off? What do you think?
Well, I think a good place to start is always the overall market sentiment. How are people feeling? How are they reacting?
Yeah, the vibe, the energy. Okay, so what's the word on the street?
Well, there's been a pretty interesting shift. You see, the crypto fear and greed index, and this is like a measure of, how optimistic or pessimistic investors are feeling about the market.
Right.
It's jumped from fear to neutral, and it's sitting at 49 right now. So that's a pretty decent move towards a more kind of balanced outlook.
A move away from fear. I like the sound of that. Now, this seems to be tied to some big decisions from the Fed, right? The Federal Reserve.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, their choice to hold interest rates steady has had a big impact. But even more than that, it was Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, and what he said about potentially cutting rates twice in 2025. That's what's really gotten people excited.
Interesting. So even though inflation is still sticking around and there's the whole tariff situation, the Fed hitting pause on rate hikes has calmed everyone down a bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look at the traditional markets. You've got the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones. They all closed over 1% higher. And crypto definitely rode that wave, too. We saw some nice gains across the board. Bitcoin even hit a 2-week high, almost reaching $87,500.
Okay, that's a pretty huge bounce.
Yeah.
What are some of the big names in crypto saying about all of this?
Well, Arthur Hayes, the ex-CEO of BitMEX, he had a really interesting take. He thinks the Fed basically signaled that it's okay to take on more risk now. And he even suggested, and this is big, that we might have already seen Bitcoin's bottom, around that $77,000 mark. Of course, he also said that stocks might still have a bit further to fall. But still, it's a pretty bullish outlook.
Yeah, Bitcoin bottoming out. That's a huge call. I'm sure people are listening very closely to that one. So increased optimism thanks to the Fed. But is there anything else fueling this market shift?
Yeah, we're also seeing more liquidity in the futures markets. That means there's more money flowing around, and that's generally a good sign. And a lot of, short positions got liquidated. That means people who were betting on the price going down had to close out their positions, which pushes the price up even further.
Right, so those forced closures are actually adding fuel to the fire.
Exactly. And on top of all that, after some withdrawals, Bitcoin ETFs are seeing inflows again. That means institutional investors are coming back to the table.
Interesting. And those Solana ETFs, are they still on track to launch today, March 20th?
Yep, still expected today. I'm sure that's adding to the excitement too.
Absolutely, the anticipation is building. Okay, so overall, things are looking pretty optimistic. The Fed has calmed the markets down. There are some potential catalysts on the horizon. Now, let's zoom in on the big one, the king, Bitcoin. It's at a 2-week high, so what's the technical analysis telling us?
All right, so the guys over at Crypto World, the YouTube channel, they're seeing what's called a bullish divergence on the daily time frame.
Okay, and for those who aren't familiar with all the technical terms, what does that mean?
Sure. Basically, it means that even though Bitcoin's price has been making lower lows recently, one of the key momentum indicators is actually making higher lows.
So the price is going down, but the momentum is actually picking up.
That's the idea. It could mean that the downward pressure is starting to ease up, and we might see a reversal soon, at least in the short term. Now, they're expecting some resistance around the low 90,000s, maybe around $91,000 or $92,000.
Got it. So potential for a climb, but resistance ahead. What about support levels? Where can we see Bitcoin finding some footing if things take a dip?
They're pointing to $82,000 as the first support level, and then $76,000 as the next one. But here's the thing. They also pointed out that there's still a bearish divergence on the weekly chart.
So the opposite of bullish divergence, meaning?
Yeah, exactly. So the price might be making higher highs, but the momentum indicator is making lower highs. That could mean the upward momentum is fading. So it's kind of a mixed bag right now.
Interesting. Short-term bullish signals, but longer-term concerns. Okay. Now, I also saw an article mentioning rumors of a big U.S. crypto policy update potentially dropping Tomorrow, March 21st. That has to be adding to the optimism, right?
Oh, for sure. Any hint of friendlier regulations in the US is generally seen as a good thing for the entire crypto space. And analyst Red Capital also said Bitcoin just needs another 8% rally to reclaim a key trading range.
Yeah, 8% doesn't seem too crazy given the recent price action.
Exactly. And even though the top crypto trader article was mainly focusing on altcoins with huge potential, they still listed Bitcoin as a top pick for 2025. They're betting on institutional adoption and the upcoming halving event to drive its price up.
Got it. So Bitcoin is still a major player, even with all the exciting new altcoins popping up.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about Ethereum. It's also up since the Fed announcement. What's the deal there?
Well, Ethereum followed the market trend and reached around $2,022. Crypto World noted that it's bouncing from a Fibonacci support level around 8,870 to $1,880.
And just to clarify, what are Fibonacci levels again?
They're basically key support and resistance areas identified using mathematical ratios. Traders use them to predict potential price movements.
Got it. So Ethereum bouncing off support. What about resistance levels?
Well, they see resistance between $2,100 and $2,200. They said if Ethereum can break above 2,200 and stay there, we could see a lot more upward movement, maybe even towards 2,500 or even $2,800.
Okay, so a potential breakout if it can clear that resistance.
Right. But like with Bitcoin, they also said the weekly chart still looks a bit bearish. So again, mixed signals there.
Yeah, that seems to be the theme today. Short-term optimism, but with some caution for the long term. And the top crypto trader article also listed Ethereum as a potential millionaire maker.
Right? Yep. They highlighted its role in DeFi, NFTs, all the institutional investment coming in, and the possibility of an ETF approval down the line.
Okay, Dad. So Ethereum definitely still has a lot going for it. Now on to Solana. It saw a pretty big price jump today. What's driving that?
Yeah, Solana was up about 6%, trading around $133 to $134. And again, we see that short-term bullish divergence on the daily chart, bouncing from a support zone between $120 and $130.
So another coin riding the wave of Fed optimism. What's the long-term outlook for Solana, though?
Crypto World noted that the larger price structure still looks a bit bearish because of what's called a rising wedge pattern. Basically, it means the buying momentum might be weakening even though the price is going up.
Interesting. Now, there was also some news about a controversial Solana ad. Did that have any impact on the price?
Yeah, an article mentioned the backlash to Solana's anti-woke ad. These kinds of things can affect sentiment, but the price surge suggests the Fed news was probably a much bigger factor.
Right. And Solana also made it onto the millionaire maker list, right?
Absolutely. They love its fast blockchain, the growing number of apps on its network, and all the partnerships it's making.
Okay, so another strong contender in the altcoin space. Now let's talk about XRP. It's been a hot topic with all the SEC drama going on. What's the latest?
Well, XRP is showing some seriously bullish momentum. The big news is the SEC dropped its appeal against Ripple. That's huge, and it's definitely driven a lot of buying.
Yeah, that's a massive win for XRP holders. How's that playing out on the charts?
Well, it's trading way above its 50-day and 200-day moving averages. That's a very bullish signal. It's also broken through key resistance levels and is now aiming for the $3 mark. We haven't seen that price in a while. Plus, the trading volume is really high, which supports this whole move.
Wow, $3 would be a significant milestone for XRP. Any potential obstacles we should be aware of?
Well, the crypto market update suggested watching for potential pullbacks around $2.3, just to confirm the strength of this rally. And Crypto World mentioned resistance in the mid $2.60 area, maybe up to 2.80. And, just like with the others, they also noticed a bearish divergence on the 3-day chart. So again, longer-term caution is warranted.
Right, that seems to be the theme. I even saw a headline asking if Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP traders should be buying now, with all talk about Trump and the FOMC.
Yeah, that really highlights how all these factors, politics, the Fed, everything are all intertwined. It all has an impact on crypto.
Okay, let's shift gears and talk about Shiba Inu, the meme coin that took the world by storm. What's the latest with eShib?
Well, the crypto market update said it's trying to make a comeback. It's broken above a key support level, so buyers are stepping in, but it's still in a bigger downtrend, and it needs a lot more buying pressure to fully reverse course. The 26-day moving average is acting as resistance right now.
So, some signs of life, but still facing some challenges.
Exactly. And interestingly, the top crypto trader article said Shiba Inu is no longer a millionaire maker for 2025.
Really, what's their reasoning behind that?
They said the hype has died down, The market is saturated with other meme coins. It doesn't have any real-world use cases. And there have been some security concerns, like that Clipper malware. Even Binance issued warnings about it.
Yeah, that's definitely worrying. Okay, so maybe not so bright for Shiba Inu. Now let's move on to something that's generating a lot of buzz, Layer 2 cryptocurrencies.
Ah, yes, the layer twos. An article even called out the top three: Polygon, Optimism, and Immutable. They're all built on top of existing blockchains like Ethereum to make them faster and cheaper to use.
Okay, so they're like upgrades, making things run smoother.
Exactly. And the whole layer 2 market is booming thanks to the growth of Ethereum and all these new roll-up technologies. Basically, they bundle transactions together to make things more efficient.
Interesting. So what's the story with Polygon, the first one on the list?
Well, the article said it's showing positive momentum after what they predict will be Trump's re-election in 2024.
Okay, so we're getting into some predictions here.
Right. It's a bit speculative, but they said it dropped in price, then stabilized at a Fibonacci level and formed a double bottom pattern. That's a bullish signal. They think it could go up 40% to $0.76 if it breaks above $0.54.
Okay, so potential rebound for Polygon.
Hmm?
What about Optimism?
Similar story. Big price drop, then consolidation, and a double bottom pattern. They see a potential 40% surge to $3.
Wow, all right. And lastly, Immutable.
Immutable dropped too, and is now consolidating near $0.75. They said if it breaks out, it could climb 68% to $1.
Okay, so some pretty big potential gains there. Any other Layer 2s worth mentioning?
Yeah, the article also mentioned a few others: STRK, MNT, ARB, STX, Manta, DYDX, and ZK Sync. And they said Bitget is a good platform for trading them.
All right, so the Layer 2 space is definitely one to watch. Now, I also came across a project called Best Wallet. What's that all about?
Oh yeah, there's a YouTube video by Austin Hilton about it. It's a whole ecosystem: a wallet, a decentralized exchange, and a real-life debit card. The idea is to make it super easy to spend your crypto anywhere.
That sounds pretty convenient. What are some of the key features?
Well, their exchange, BestX, supports over 60 different blockchains, and their wallet offers staking rewards with a crazy 141% APR for their BEST token. They're having a pre-sale right now, and if you hold BEST, you get special perks and early access to new projects.
Interesting. So a one-stop shop for all things crypto. Lastly, we have Rexus Finance. That was also flagged as a potential millionaire maker.
Yep, the top crypto trader article really liked Rexus. It's all about real-world asset tokenization, basically putting things like real estate, gold, even artwork onto the blockchain. The goal is to make it easier to buy and sell fractions of these assets.
So bridging the gap between the traditional world and crypto.
Exactly. And they've already raised over $1.7 million in their pre-sale. They even have a tool called the Rexus Token Builder to help people create their own asset-backed tokens. The pre-sale price is $0.05, and they're aiming for a listing price of $0.20.
Okay, so a lot of potential there. All right, let's wrap things up. We've seen a really positive reaction to the Fed's decision to hold rates steady, boosting Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a whole lot of altcoins. XRP is looking particularly strong with the SEC news. Layer 2s are also heating up, with Polygon, Optimism, and Immutable leading the charge. Shiba Inu, on the other hand, might be facing some tough times. And we've got some interesting new projects like Best Wallet and Rexus Finance shaking things up.
Absolutely, but remember, this is just a snapshot of a very fast-moving market. Always do your own research before making any decisions.
Couldn't agree more. So here's something for you to think about. With the Fed holding rates and all the rumors about U.S. crypto policy changes, what do you think will be the catalyst for the next big move in crypto? It's a fascinating and ever-changing world, and we'll be here to break it all down for you. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for even more in-depth analysis and updates. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time.